This week on the National Shooting Sports Foundation's Shooting Sportscast, we have a special tip provided to us from Brownells from their newly released DVD, Jerry Miculek Practical Rifle. Here's champion shooter Jerry Miculek with some advice that I know will improve your shooting.
If you find yourself at home and you want to dry fire to train your trigger finger, a good thing to do is just put your little spot on the wall and try to hold the scope as steady as you can and just break the shot. What you're trying to do here is to actually start to feel the trigger while the sight is wobbling. You're not going to have you're never going to have a perfectly still sight picture, so don't even try to have it. Just live with your wobble zone, make the shot. To have the shot surprise the shooter is the ultimate expression of shooting, really, because you're in the moment there. You're watching your sight picture and the shot happens. That's a beautiful thing. The worst thing you can do is have a perfect sight picture and bad trigger control. You miss the target every time. So just accept the wobble, keep pressing straight to the rear and let the shot break. One of the key concepts of shooting a rifle is having the finger square on the face of the trigger during the whole firing sequence. And this is very important when you find yourself shooting faster and faster. Your finger placement has to be square on the face of the trigger, or you'll have a tendency to torque the sight picture left or right and have a miss. So to me, a smaller grip like this allows the hand to reach further to the front of the trigger. You notice that I have a considerable amount of room here between the trigger finger and the rifle. I don't want to interact with the rifle anywhere except on the face of the trigger. This is where that small grip comes in again. It allows me to have more trigger reach than what I need, and I can use that to my advantage where I can hook my finger and come in square on the face of the trigger. What you want to try to avoid is having your finger in a relationship to where when you push on the trigger, you're actually pushing the sight to the side instead of pulling on the trigger straight to the rear. Another thing you want to remember after you fire the shot is to not have your finger leave the face of the trigger. This just adds a lot of motion, and it also adds for the tendency for the shooter to actually run at the trigger and try to make up that distance that he's lost by removing his finger. What you want to realize about trigger control, if the targets are close and personal, big target zones, just about anything will work on a trigger. As you get further, 300 yards, you have a 10-inch target, you have to start triggering there. So one technique will not carry to the other. So you have to be aware that you're constantly changing trigger technique to get the job done on the course of fire. The trigger finger is not touching anything except the face of the trigger, and I'm also interacting with the trigger straight back. If you have your finger parallel to the gun, you'll have a tendency to work the trigger to the left or to the right. If you have a good 3-pound trigger pull, don't hit it with 6 pounds of energy. All I want to do with the trigger finger is to discharge the shot and set it up for the next pull. Another thing you want to remember after you fire the shot is to not have your finger leave the face of the trigger. This just adds a lot of motion, and it also adds for the tendency for the shooter to actually run at the trigger and try to make up that distance that he's lost by removing his finger.
A great tip from a great shooter. If you're interested, you can order the complete series of these practical rifle shooting tips from Brownells.com. So go out to the range and try this tip this weekend. And if you're looking for a range near you, visit our website, wheretoshoot.org.